Now is Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of Torrance. Congressman, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you, Alex.
What a week. We're going to talk about Michael Cohen in a moment, but let's begin with North Korea. You are on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. President Trump deciding to walk away from negotiations. No deal signed in North Korea. What do you make of the summit?
Right. I think it's better to have no deal rather than a bad deal. I previously served on active duty with the United States Air Force. One of my first duty stations was Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, and we would do all sorts of different military exercises, much of it directed against North Korea. And I can tell you there are no good military options. So diplomacy is really our only viable path, but we have to have a good deal. And so if the president doesn't think there's a good deal and he walked away from it, I would support that. But we do need to continue further talks and have additional pathways to diplomacy because that's really our only alternative.
Do you trust Kim Jong-un, and what do you make of the president sort of cozying up to him?
I don't trust Kim Jong-un, and I was very skeptical of U.S. negotiators saying they would be okay with North Korea not disclosing all of its nuclear inventory. I thought that was a bad idea, and I'm glad that the president walked away from that.
Some people on Twitter are now using the hashtag #TrumpFail in response to what happened with this summit. You tweeted about that. You said, the hashtag #TrumpFail is trending, and I find it inappropriate, you say. People should not be hoping the president fails or taking pleasure in his failure on the global stage. Whether you like the president or not, he represents America in foreign affairs. We want America to succeed. Some people are pointing out the fact that that's interesting coming from you because you are so often a critic of President Trump on Twitter, so often mock him on Twitter. Isn't that tweet a bit hypocritical?
Yeah. No, not at all. We're all Americans, and we should want the president to succeed on the global stage. I criticize the president when he engages in behavior that is inappropriate or crosses a line or he takes policy decisions I disagree with. But I also have commended the president multiple times in the past. The press doesn't really report about it, but I do it because I call it as I see it. It just happens that Donald Trump mostly does things I disagree with. But when he does something that's right, I do commend him for it.
And you've pointed that out sometimes here on The Issue Is. So we appreciate that. Right. Let's talk about the other big story in Washington of the week, which is, of course, Michael Cohen and the testimony that got so much attention. Kevin McCarthy, who's the Republican leader, who's also a California congressman, said that he didn't learn anything from Michael Cohen's testimony, and he's not concerned about anything that Michael Cohen said. Did you learn anything?
Absolutely. I'm going to give you 4 things that we learned. But first, the general picture that Michael Cohen painted under oath is that our president and his associates engaged in criminal conduct. So not only did Michael Cohen under oath say that the president essentially made these hush money payments, he also produced 2 documents. One was a check that Donald Trump signed as president for a hush money payment. And second was a check that Don Jr. and Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump Organization, also signed. That directly implicates them in a conspiracy of a campaign finance violation for which Michael Cohen is going to prison for. Second thing that we learned is that Don Jr. and Ivanka were briefed about Trump Tower Moscow. And then third, we were also told from Michael Cohen that Donald Trump told him while he was president to mislead the American people about the Stormy Daniels story.
Do you think that Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump should testify before Congress, and would you consider subpoenaing them yourself?
I do believe they should testify because of their public reporting in the press, as well as Michael Cohen's testimony under oath. They have information that Congress needs to know. And if they don't come to testify, one of the tools Congress has is subpoena power.
You are on the Judiciary Committee, which is where, if there was an impeachment inquiry, it would be based out of. From what you've seen so far, are we closer to impeachment? Do you believe that there should be impeachment hearings for President Trump?
Right now, the Judiciary Committee doesn't have a record. So the first thing we need to do is build a record. What we have are newspaper articles. We have people making statements in different committees. We have statements made on TV. What we need to do is call in witnesses, get their testimony under oath, get depositions, get documents, and have these hearings for the American people. And then once we build that record, it's either going to exonerate Donald Trump and his associates or it won't. And then we can make a decision with the American people as to where we proceed from there.
Have you talked to the chair of the Judiciary Committee? Have you asked him to begin impeachment hearings like you just mentioned?
I have not, but we have talked about going forward with our oversight and investigatory responsibilities. And the mission of the House Judiciary Committee is much broader than Special Counsel Mueller. He's interested if anyone committed a crime related to Russia. The Judiciary Committee is interested if anyone committed a crime, whether or not it relates to Russia. Second, we want to know if anyone committed inappropriate, bad, or unethical acts, whether or not it technically becomes a felony. And then third, we want to know how do we prevent this from happening again, and how do we tell the American people what happened?
Well, Congressman, you've been on our show several times. You know we like to play some games on this show. One of them is the name game. I know Beyonce is your favorite, so anytime you get to hear her, I know you get excited. This is where we go through some names of people in the news, and you give me one word or a short response on your response to that. You look very excited. So let's begin with President Trump.
Just one word, right?
Yes.
All right, crook.
Okay.
First thing came to mind.
Michael Cohen.
Remorseful.
Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows together, the House Freedom Caucus.
Tea Party.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new freshman sensation.
Terrific.
And Senator Kamala Harris.
Amazing.
So, Senator Harris, you've endorsed her for president already. But we don't even know who is all going to be in the field. We haven't seen any debates. We haven't seen many of the speeches yet. Why endorse her so soon? Yeah. And why endorse her at all?
Right. Thanks for that question. I've known Kamala for many years. We worked on different issues, including bail reform, which is an important element of criminal justice reform. She is tough. She is progressive. She is brilliant. She can unify people, and she's the person we need to lead us in 2020.
So even if Biden enters the race, you're still with Senator Harris?
I am. Joe Biden is great. Many of the other candidates are great, but I believe Kamala Harris would be the best nominee for the Democrats.
Well, it's going to be an interesting campaign. And the other thing that I think makes you interesting especially is your love of Pat Benatar. So we love to play music on this show. So we're going to end our segment with you with a little Invincible, which I know is your favorite song.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes. Congressman Lieu, he's dancing inside right now.
That's right, dancing inside.
Congressman Ted Lieu, Democrat at Torrance, thanks for being with us.